there's no doubt that in our day and age, I think people in general have lost confidence in the government in these areas. In fact, when I was growing up in my teens, you seen a wholesale collapse of that you could see right on your nightly TV. The Puritan John Winthrop, he talked about the city on the hill when he was talking to the founders there, and he connected that to the Articles of our Confederation, the idea of we truly were a city on a hill. We were a city of liberty, and that American early civil government was covenanted with God for either blessing or cursing if we did the things that God called us to do. A church playing out its role in society, doing what they did is just would have been considered a normal thing. Even in 1970, we would be laughing at this 30, 40 years ago if we heard this happen. We wouldn't believe our society has drifted so far to actually come against something like a church doing this. The same thing with transgender bathrooms. I remember in my neighborhood, if anybody talked about, I heard it the first time somebody talked about a woman having an abortion, it was considered something so awful, so terrible back in the 70s. And today, it's like, it's a standard discussion. So we've drifted, there's no question. But we all need to, I think, remember what it says in our Liberty Bill: proclaim liberty throughout all the land and to all the inhabitants thereof. We have forgotten that basic message that's enshrined back in 1752 in Philadelphia on our Liberty Bell. We need to go back to that and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all the people.
Well, and you think about this concept of liberty, and you were mentioning it, we're really getting into some of these, as they're called, social issues, but I think it's so instructive to us as the church, as believers in Christ. Of course, arriving in Cincinnati, if you walk around the streets, you'll see these banners on the various light poles that talk about pride. There are these rainbow expressions here, and so you've got this group of people that they want to be free to love who they want to love. You talk about transgender bathrooms. People want to be free to basically act according to their so-called gender identity. But they're talking about freedom. But freedom and liberty are not the same.
And they're actually talking about license. It's actually a little bit, if you look at the sin nature of man, you can have a license to do something, but that license could be wrong. There's a big difference between license and liberty. Liberty is all the good we could do, the good things we could do under God's law, and not being forced to do anything against God's law, anything wrong. Now, from my point of view, I've been married 42 years. I'm blessed. If I go out and cheat on my wife, I'm committing adultery. That's a sin. I'm guilty of it. There's no difference between that and having a gay lifestyle. It's a sin. It's the sin nature of man. Sin is sin. I don't care what we want to call it today. You could call it something else, call it a license, call it a freedom to express yourself. It's still a sin. And people don't like to hear the truth sometimes, but that's what it is. And that's all we could do. That's all we can say about it. It is not liberty. There's a difference.